the last time we saw each other, I think you were either about to move to Japan or deciding to. I think you had pretty much decided, maybe. But boy, did you make the right decision.
The timing was impeccable. Yeah, the last time I saw you, I think you had
I
just
had
moved to
yes,
LA, and I was moving
right,
out.
right. Yeah, we grabbed. I think yeah, we grabbed lunch, and then yeah, no. At the time, I was like, "That's awesome that you're moving," and then now or seeing everything that's happened in our terrible country, wow, well done.
Oh,
um,
oh my
Not
God.
that,
I mean,
not
thank
yeah.
you,
I
but
mean, geez.
yeah,
So good on you. I mean, how have
thank
things? I
you.
mean, this is very general, but how have things been? And so
hmm
far.
You know, without taking COVID into consideration, it's actually been really, really lovely, obviously. Japan is like just naturally quite
Mm,
pleasant. And the purpose of my wanting to move was basically mostly based around like wanting to be around my
mm,
family. So I only gained like great experiences from
yeah.
that. But I gotta tell you, as much as Japan is faring very well with COVID, maybe right now not so much. We actually are like kind of imploding in on ourselves as well.
Mm,
But as much as Japan has done well with COVID, it really did, as like somebody that works in entertainment, it really did screw things up. Like the repercussions were quite bad here,
I
and
see.
I feel like yeah, and I feel like I was quite naive. I genuinely thought, oh, like last year, I genuinely thought by the summer it would be okay. I did
Mm,
consider it much like the flu, where I'm like, well, if the weather gets better and once it becomes warmer, I feel like it won't be as bad, but boy, was I wrong.
sure, sure.
And now we're in like 2021, and I'm like, oh no, all of my jobs for 2021 are getting canceled as well.
Ugh, yeah, that I didn't think about that. I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, unfortunately, par for the course for now, but
Mm, that does make sense. I mean, I figured that's happening to plenty of people, even if they're in the country, outside the country. Yeah, but yeah,
exactly.
which is unfortunate. But I guess why don't we talk about some of the good parts though? Because I mean, I don't know. Because I've only been to Japan twice.
Oh,
And
yeah, yeah.
I am so desperate to go back. And so I don't. I guess I would love to hear about just sort of like some of the best things about moving there and that were part of your
Sure.
regular life at that point. Like
Oh,
besides
yeah,
family,
of
which is
course.
obviously going to be the best part.
Yeah,
But
that just goes without saying. Let's see. Japan is, I'd say, in like the easiest way to put it, it is very convenient here.
mm,
Public transportation works perfectly. It
mm,
arrives literally on the dot. It's almost frightening how accurate it is. And I'd say everything is extremely accessible. Like, I think specifically comparing it to life in LA, which was A, ridiculously expensive, and
mm,
also B, just there are so many like everyday hurdles. Even traffic, for example, in LA is just kind of like mind numbing.
yes.
So I came from like that very city environment to the middle of nowhere countryside in Japan. So that
Mm,
stark difference alone is, I think, like, first I have to mention that like I don't live in Tokyo, I don't live in a city in Japan. So I think maybe if I lived in the city, it would be a little bit more comparable
sure,
to what it was like in
sure.
LA, but everything is so much cheaper here. It's insane. I can't even like I can't appreciate it enough.
Mm,
And also the food is just it's so delicious here. Like even
yeah,
a random restaurant, like a hole in the wall restaurant in the middle of nowhere, is still quite delicious, and you can't really go wrong. Service is also very good here. Everybody is very courteous, and the idea of serving your guest is very much appreciated. Like I know in a lot of like even cultures and languages, they say like the customer is king or the customer is like everything. But in
mm.
Japan, they take it a step further and say the customer is God. So, yeah, so, and they really do treat you like so well. They'll bend over
They do,
backwards for
yeah,
you. And yeah, and I actually like, I really appreciate that because it makes you feel A, good spending the money there,
sure.
and also B, like it was all worthwhile. So I like those aspects where you kind of don't, it doesn't feel like you ever are losing anything, you know, like I just spent like $60 on a meal, but the service was horrible. Like there's definitely never an instance where that would be, or that would happen. Whereas in LA, like that was all the time.
Sure.
Yeah, food is a big deal, I'd say.
I loved the food there. I mean, even just like kombini food, I just loved so much. Just on the baseline, and then it's like on top of that, you know, amazing, you know, seafood. Just so good. Now,
Yeah, absolutely.
I get how long have you been living there now? Because I don't know how time works anymore.
Oh my God, me neither. I was like, so it's like what, December 40th, 2020?
Yeah.
So let's see. I moved in 2018.
Wow.
And so I guess this will be my third year. So we were here for 2 full years. I feel like I still haven't fully adjusted yet, especially because, you know, one of those years was eaten up by COVID. So
Yeah.
they're definitely, I kind of am like numb to time as well.
Sure.
And when I think about it, when I said it just now, like verbalized it, 2 years, I feel like I should have been a little bit more, I guess, like acclimated to general Japanese life, like with other people. But yeah, it's a little bit, I mean, it can't be helped, but yeah, wow, 2 years. I'm like kind of, my mind is blown right now.
Yeah, it's funny. I was looking up like an old tweet or something, like a photo, just like a silly photo. But then I was like, wait, why was I in Michigan in early 2018? And I was like, oh my God, it's because I was still living there in 2018.
Yeah.
I was like, wait.
Because you really were
Yeah,
there.
I was really there. Like, I thought I was like, was I visiting or something? It really feels like I've been in LA, like, I don't know, weirdly, like twice the length. Like, but
yeah.
it's, you know, it kind of just does that for you, right? You know, especially with no seasons, it's just like, oh, time's gone.
Yes.
I've only been here like less than 3 years. It feels longer.
Definitely. It's so interesting to have like the same timeline as you, because that's exactly what's been happening with me here as well. But you're totally right. Not having seasons really screws with just like not knowing what year it is, what day it is, all that stuff. That happened to me when I first moved to LA as well. I'm from New Jersey originally, so we had all 4 seasons, and then suddenly it was like just 70 degrees all the time, and like Christmas was like 85 degrees, and that's really awkward.
Yeah. I guess I'm just sort of curious. Like, I mean, is Japan like a long-term, like you're pretty much there to stay, or what are your? Obviously you've only just been there for like 2 years or whatever. So I'm just curious. Like, it seems like you're pretty happy there.
Yeah. You know, originally when I was moving out of LA and deciding on Japan, I was pretty certain that it was going to be forever.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is our next life.
Yeah.
Whereas moving from, like, let's say New Jersey to LA, I knew we were going to be there for definitely over 5 years, but I wasn't sure if it was going to be for life.
Sure.
Whereas in this move, I was like, okay, certainly going to stay in Japan forever. Like, we moved our cats here, and that's a whole nother process.
Oh God.
So yeah, so my idea was that, like, well, at the very least, like, we're not going to move our cats out of here ever, because that's like way too laborious. But you know, now I'm not quite sure. I don't want to be like too flippant or anything, but I am noticing that as much as I personally love Japan, like, I'm Japanese and my whole family is here, so it's quite easy for me to be comfortable and acclimate. And actually my husband's doing quite well also. He has like a regular salaryman job, which is salaryman is just like businessman in Japanese. But yeah, he's this like totally American white boy, and he's working a full like Japanese job here. So he also acclimated quite well, but maybe it's because we had like a whole microcosm year due to COVID, but I did not realize I was going to miss the States this badly. Maybe it's because we're forced to stay here. Maybe that like stuck feeling is amplifying it a little bit. But I miss very easily conveying things in English. Like, Japanese is even the language itself is a huge song and dance. There's like 5 different layers of politeness and speech patterns that you have to convey depending on who you're speaking to. And everything is very conscious. Like, it reminds me a lot of, actually, it's actually even more complicated than Latin in like when you're speaking Latin, not that people normally speak Latin, but you but you have to even like conjugate nouns, which is such a foreign concept to most like romantic language speakers and English speakers. And in Japanese, you have to do not only that also, but then have to be conscious of like who you're speaking to and like whether you're below them or above them, which is such a strange social context. And I get used to it, but I don't, there is a little bit of like a, almost like a coldness because it's so polite.
Sure.
And even, yeah, and even when you get close with people, like people that you've worked with and stuff, there is definitely a layer of this like professionalism that just like cannot go away. And I'm okay with that for now. I've made it work for now with like work and for, you know, networking and creating connections, but it's not, you know what, it's not what I'm used to. Like I still did grow up in the States and, you know, I went to university in the States. So like no matter what, like my command of language is always going to be stronger in English.
Right.
And yeah, and it sucks, but I don't fully feel comfortable, like for example, like negotiating contracts in Japanese. Like I'm much better and well versed in English. So I feel like those hiccups that happen constantly in my work area is making me like realize, ooh, like maybe it is a little bit easier in English.
We're just going over. Were you born in Japan, or did you live in?
Yeah.
So you were born in Japan, and how long did you live there then before you moved here?
I moved to the States when I was 3.
Gotcha.
And I was, yeah, so I'm like pretty American. Every summer and winter, I would come back to Japan because my mom really, really wanted me to eventually move back. So it kind of worked. Her plan worked.
Sure.
But yeah, it is a little bit tough, I have to say. It's not really a language barrier. It's really more of like my Western mindset is like a little too wacky, I think.
No, my mom feels the same way about Korea, actually. So, you know,
I bet.
my mom has lived here, you know, for, 30 years, right? You know, I'm sure more than that. So, we, you know, God, I keep wanting to say a year ago. No, last year was nothing. Two years ago, we took a trip where we went to Korea and Japan.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Was that 2 years ago? 3? I don't know. Whatever. A couple years ago, and it was the first time that she had basically been in Korea for like 30 years, and she got to see like
no way.
Yeah, she had not been back since. Like the last time we had gone was when I was 3.
Whoa.
So maybe like a 27, 26 years. She had not seen her siblings and not been to Korea. And she had a great time. She stayed for about a month. I went over for like a week in Korea. Then I took her and my brother to Japan. I was like, oh, here, it's your birthday. We're going to treat you in Japan, that sort of thing. But
oh, that's so cool.
So, and that was my first time in Japan, which was a lot of fun. Yeah, she was like, you know, I was kind of talking to her about it, you know, how did it feel, you know, to, you know, be there. And, you know, she was like, no, even though she speaks perfectly, you know, she's more comfortable with Korean than English, but she speaks very good English, but obviously her more natural language is Korean. But even then, just totally. Culturally, she's like, no, I couldn't live here. Like, it doesn't.
Right.
Because one thing that you're kind of sort of touching on is, yeah, like, just, you know, Korean society has that same sort of politeness system, right? Not nearly as, I think, complex as the Japanese one, but it's still very, you know, between annyeong and annyeonghaseyo, you know, you gotta at least, you know, that's the basic line difference, right? Talking to someone older or more respected, blah blah blah, or a peer or whatever.
Yeah.
And so
it's quite similar.
Yeah, and so she, you know, my mom is a very like, she's very outspoken. You know, she's very like strong-willed and not very. I think a lot of, you know, people in Korea, especially women, are kind of expected to be, you know, a little more, you know, how do you say it? Not subservient, but, you know, a little more polite or a little more of that. But she's definitely more westernized. Yeah, so it even despite a perfect language consistency, like just I think American culture, she has been, you know, I think she thinks for honestly for herself, the better. Even though
Yeah.
America sucks, but at least she feels comfortable here, which is good for me to hear. As a son of immigrants, I'm glad that my parents feel
Absolutely.
comfortable here, and it makes sense. You live in a country for like 30 years. Of course,
30
you're gonna be
years.
more accustomed, more acclimated. But some parents don't feel that way. I have other Korean friends who, their parents never really learned English just because they didn't have to, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
but yeah, no, I just think it's interesting that hearing your experience, it reminds me exactly of kind of how my mom feels about Korea. Like, great to visit, and
Yeah.
we would love to go back, hopefully soon, but
Oh,
definitely for
absolutely.
her, like she feels even when we visit a little out of place. So I think that's very common for
Yeah, I
people.
feel like it's so interesting hearing about how your mom feels regarding Korea and like living there versus visiting versus not versus but like in comparison to how
Sure.
long she's lived in the US
Yeah.
because my mom and well my dad and my parents got divorced when I was very young
Mm.
and my dad moved back very early on but my mom obviously raised me in the States and was there for I think 25 years before she moved back to Japan but
Mm.
she fully intended from day one to move back to Japan. Like
Mm.
she was never going to, like for example, retire in the States,
Sure.
you
Sure.
know. Whereas with me, she like raised me there since I was 3. So although I know all of like the rosy fun parts about Japan because I kept coming back during summer and winter,
Sure.
I didn't know and I actually did go to Japanese school in Japan during the summer every year.
Oh, okay.
But I got bullied because, like, I'm obviously like
Mm.
a foreigner
Yeah. Yeah.
in their
Yeah.
eyes. Um, so as much as like I did experience a lot of Japan, and I also went to Japanese school, multiple Japanese schools in the States. I was very obviously raised like an American
Mm.
with like all these American friends and everything like that. So I wasn't really ever thinking that I would actually move back to Japan until I became an adult and, after moving to LA and having experienced so many different things and with like the advent of our like digital careers and stuff,
Mm.
and like, everybody loving Japan so much, I was like, wow, this like seems like it makes so much sense. And it does for now. But it's interesting that I don't know. I don't know if I want to move my cats again. That was so difficult and it was like almost
Oh
traumatizing. So I always think
God.
about
I
that.
mean, I don't
But
know if you want to get into it. I'm just curious, like how bad of a process is it? Like, what do you have to do?
oh, Sugwon, it was so bad,
Yeah.
man. So Japan is a fully rabies-free country. The
Mm.
way I think Australia, New Zealand, and I actually think Korea is as well, or Taiwan.
I know
And
Australia's
in order
super strict. Yeah.
to
Mm.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I'd say Japan and Australia are actually quite similar.
Mm.
And you have to prepare your cats a year and a half in advance
Oh
for moving.
God.
I, I know. I mean, pets, not just cats, obviously. But it's like, it's kind of insane if you think about it, right? Like, they first have to get a very specifically designated series of vaccines and rabies shots.
Uh-huh.
And they have to be monitored by something that is approved by Japan's government. And then it has to be fully transcribed and translated into Japanese. And then their microchip also has to be like Japanese readable microchips
Oh
and
my
stuff.
God.
Like, and then get this is the craziest thing. You have to bring them, not bring them, but you have to bring all that paperwork that you just like, prepared with your vet and like all these other agencies. You have to bring it to the FDA. And I remember it was like in El Segundo or something. Like I drove like an hour and a half to get there.
Oh my God.
And that's where they notarize it. But if like one decimal, not decimal, but like if one like lowercase uppercase thing is missing or mismatches, you have to start all over. Yeah, it's like kind of
Oh
traumatizing.
my God.
But then honestly, if you're prepared fully and you do all that like by the books and it works out fine, it actually is quite smooth once you arrive in Japan. The flight is, of course, a whole nother story.
Oh.
It is like an 11-hour flight after all.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
But yeah, it all ended fine. Everything is fine. The cats were great, and they're very very happy here. But the process was it was so intense that I genuinely fear ever having to bring them on another plane. So
I see. I see.
yeah,
Phew, that's that. I'm so sorry to hear that. That sounds fucking
no, it was
terrible.
a
Uh,
it was terrible. It's a learning experience though. Like I was like, okay, if we could do this, we could do anything.
sure, sure. Now, I like to give the guest a chance to, if you want to bring up a topic or have a question for me, feel free. I still have stuff to talk about, obviously.
Sure.
No pressure. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
right now I'd like to give you an opportunity if you'd like, if there's anything that comes to mind. Otherwise, I have plenty of stuff we can talk about.
Yeah, sure. I was just gonna ask you, like, I wanted to know what you were up to and how you were liking LA, because again, I know we mentioned it already, but we almost have similar timelines where you happened to move to LA and like when I was moving to Japan, and so we've only been in our respective places and for like a little over 2 years, and I
Sure.
wanted to know how you were acclimating. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's I've actually been loving it. Like, that's gonna sound super naive, but or maybe not. I don't know. But for me, it's
No,
been
not at
I don't
all.
know. I think I think a lot of people have very different feelings about LA, and I understand.
Yes.
I've
Yes.
had a I've had a very good experience, but I think the best part about it for me has been just being near way more of my friends. Whereas,
Oh yeah,
where
that's a big
yeah,
deal.
for in Michigan, like as you graduate from college, everybody starts moving away, right? Moving out. We don't go to different states for different jobs or whatever, and so it was very isolating. It was very isolating, very like. And winters were just miserable. Like that was when I was the most
Oh
depressed.
yeah.
So it was like me just sitting there, like some winters, going, "Boy, I don't want to be here because it's so cold." And also, I mean, I'm sure as you know, like for me, my aspirations were always in the voice acting field, and it just felt like I'm just wasting my time here. Like, why am I not out there, like pursuing it full time? Uh, and so when I made the decision to finally do it, yeah, no, now I mean, COVID aside, it's like getting to be around a lot of people that I know and getting to see them on a regular basis, as opposed to like, hey, I'll see you maybe next time I fly out here, like every
Right,
maybe
right.
6 months from now, if then, and getting to form like much closer friendships with people who live here. That's been the best part. And then on top of that, like career wise, I mean, the voice acting has been going very well. So it's for me, at least as long as things are, if I'm fortunate enough for things to keep going well the way they are, I imagine I'll be here for a while.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, I mean, it's been very positive, and I obviously I feel very fortunate that it's going well. But it's funny you mentioned traffic, and it's just like, since I have been stuck here for so long, I'm like, oh yeah, traffic, huh? I
Oh
I
yeah.
haven't left Burbank in about a year, like, which is kind of crazy to think about, like,
It's very crazy to think
yeah,
about to be in LA, but like not having left the one
yeah,
area.
like barely left the apartment. I've only left very few times for like work within Burbank, and
Right,
actually that's it.
right.
And otherwise I am in the apartment. So that's it's not that I miss traffic, but I miss.
It is an aspect of like LA life though, right? Like as much as I talked about how much I hated it, like it is like almost LA's
I just
culture.
miss going other places.
Yeah,
Even if it took
yeah.
fucking like 3 hours or whatever to get there, it's like at
Totally.
least you got to see another place. But
Yes, I completely agree.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of what else is like shitty besides from everything COVID related and everything America related. But yeah, I mean, I can't complain. So far, it's been good. Um,
That sounds so great to hear, honestly, because LA is, LA is about heavy ups and downs,
Yes.
in my opinion. Like when it's good, it's excellent. And then when it's like kind of shitty, you're terrified, So I feel like overall though, LA is so exciting. I did feel like when I lived there, my age was suspended. It does really feel like Neverland.
Yeah.
And I loved that. And I do feel that once I moved away, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm an adult. Like, I'm like a real adult. I'm not like an LA adult. I have to do all these like really strange mortgage things and like another language. Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
But in LA, I was like, I just need to pay renter's insurance and I am a grown ass adult.
Yeah. 20 forever or whatever. You feel like you're in your 20s forever. I mean, I only just hit 30.
It really felt that way.
Like,
I mean, yeah.
And not to say that I have not had, I don't want it to sound like to people, oh, everything's been sunny days and easy going. Like, there have definitely been periods of like, where it gets slow, right? Or it gets like, uncertain. Like, but I think overall, it's definitely been a positive net change for me for sure. But I've only been here, like less than 3 years. Like, who knows how it's gonna go from this point on? But it's just fingers crossed, right? It's like if things can go about this or better or whatever for a while, I'll be very happy.
Right. It's really, again, so interesting to hear you talk about it like that because I do feel almost like we're kindred spirits. I feel very much the same way about you where I'm like I'm very optimistic and I'm cautiously optimistic. And like you said, the net gain is definitely overall positive. But I think I'm like preparing, like just in case it doesn't go bad. Like I need to be sure I'm realistic.
No, yeah, for sure.
But yeah. And also, exactly like you said, I want to acknowledge and appreciate all the great things about it, but I want to also acknowledge that like it's not always amazing. Like it hasn't been like the best year.
Now, kind of going back to not going back to, but going back to you, I guess. I am just sort of curious about like I guess for you, do you have any? Not do you, but what are your aspirations for, like, I guess, the future? Like, what are you sort of hoping to, move towards?
Yeah. Let's see. Regarding that, so it sucks that I have to preface everything with like before COVID.
Sure.
But before Corona, BC, I was going to go heavily into the voice acting industry here in Japan. I actually had an agency and everything like that. And I started first by kind of consulting and coaching some Japanese voice actors that needed to speak English in their roles and to sound more natural.
Sure.
And that sounded like this like perfect, melding of my worlds. So it was working out really nicely, but just exactly as my contract was becoming kind of like a long-term legitimate thing, it's not even COVID. It's that like Japan had a really intense state of emergency very early on. And going to Tokyo was I don't want to call it a death sentence, but like no one was doing it. Like if you're from the country, no one was heading towards Tokyo. It seemed like so foolish to be doing so. And a lot of production, Japan got a lot better and, life almost seemed to go back to normal, which is probably why things are not so great right now. But in doing that, I'd say like maybe the entertainment industry had like a couple different shifts, and it just sucks that maybe I should have probably been more flexible in going to the city, but I moved to the country so I could be with my family, and like everyone is quite old. Like I take care of my grandmother, and this is a little unfortunate, but my grandfather passed away last year and I was taking care of him directly. So I like really couldn't be going out to like exposure areas, for lack of a better term, and then like coming back. Yeah, and I really couldn't be doing like a 2-week quarantine after, let's say, doing a job in Tokyo. So I, just kind of had to make a few decisions, and so that kind of took a halt. But it also kind of made me realize that this is like a slight criticism of the Japanese. entertainment industry, but they are a little bit behind the times. There should have been almost like a way to still continue in this manner, but like through digital. I feel like last year was the first time everybody really figured out how to work remotely. Whereas I remember like in LA, and I used to work in SF as well, but working remotely was so normal. You know, like you would like join meetings and I'd have like 7 different like Google meetings opened up. And it was actually before I was comfortable with Zoom. I don't even think Zoom existed like even 2 or 3 years ago, but I remember like working remotely was just so natural to be doing. And then here it was such a dynamic paradigm shift for everybody. And it was like a big deal and nobody knew how to work their computers from home and stuff like that. And I was like, this should not be this way. So the fact that like I feel like we weren't really able to get things rolling again or even still is just kind of a bummer. I'm like, Japan, like I thought you were on top of your game in terms of like digital, but it's really interesting how there's almost like a juxtaposition, right? Like Japan seems so very ahead of their times and they seem so conscious of the world, and they are to a degree, but when push comes to shove, there is kind of a dependency on analog and on almost like classic ways of working and physical work. So yeah, I don't know, like noticing that was also very eye-opening, and I still appreciate all of it. And there is definitely more of like a human touch, for lack of a better term, in terms of working, which is why remote work doesn't really do so well. But I don't know, it is not great in this condition.
Yeah, although you say that, but I feel like maybe it might depend on, well, maybe Japan as a whole was struggling, but it may depend on the industry, because in LA, you know, I know a lot of people in animation, and then I'm on the voiceover side, and it took a while for us for these industries to get their shit together. And even now, like, I would not say that voiceover has really worked out perfectly how to have people work from home.
I guess that's true. You can't have a sound booth in your home.
Yeah, well, no, you can. I just don't want to pay for something so humongous and put it in my apartment. That's so,
Of course.
It's just like, that's why I mentioned, like, the only times I ever leave are for work, like, you know, and it's very, you know, it's very safe, you know, everybody, you know, very limited contact or whatever, but that is literally the only time I leave, because if I'm ever given the option, like, do you want to record from home or do you want to record in the studio, I always pick in the studio, because recording from home is a fucking nightmare. Because
I bet you have to do your own
Yes,
tech.
you have to be your own engineer, and, you know, sometimes construction's going on outside, or sometimes, you know, a car man has to pass by during a take. So it's this thing where, you know, and I know for animation, you know, it was and that's arguably a lot easy. I don't want to say easier, but it's easier than voiceover to get that, like, sort of transferred from analog to digital. And I can see that. Then it was like a big, like, they just could not figure out, you know, there was like I think it was like March, there was like a couple month period where it was just like, for the animation I was hearing, it was just like a nightmare to get everything figured out and how it can work in an online space. And then for me it was like voiceover was dead for a while. It was like, and there was this feeling of like, what are we gonna do? Like, how do we how is this? Yeah. How are we gonna record? And the answer is, even now, not super perfect solutions for it. It's kind of a mishmash. So I don't know, maybe it may depend on the industry, but just know that America bungled it a bunch too, and I hope that at least makes you feel a little better. But
you know, it kind of does. It does make me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, so that's good. You mentioned you worked with Japanese voice actors. Now I'm actually a huge nerd when it comes to Japanese seiyuu. I guess, was there anybody notable that you worked with, or?
I actually can't say.
Oh, okay, got it. Never mind.
Only because only that's actually quite interesting. Only mainly because this is, I think, kind of a slightly embarrassing thing for Japanese
really?
voice actors to, yeah, oh, maybe not embarrassing, but like I think it's a slightly maybe touchy subject
Oh,
in trying to master English, because I find that a lot of Japanese voice actors are obviously going to, do anything
sure.
and they'll work very hard at anything, but language manipulation, acquisition, and intonation, pronunciation, those types of things, it's really hard. And
Yeah.
I feel like voice actors, like Japanese ones, seiyus in particular, are so incredibly careful about their craft that having a weak point like their inability to portray something in English is
Mm.
is a little upsetting to them, I think.
Oh, okay.
So even myself, like when I was like signing all these contracts and stuff, like I could barely like even see them face to face,
Wow.
and I could only give them quite I mean, like, I'd listen to their clips and I'd tell them, like, oh, you want to put more emphasis on this and say it like this, like, pretend you're singing a song, like, repeat after me. And you want to open your mouth, like, a little wider because, English is spoken at, like, the tip of your mouth and Japanese is spoken in the middle of your mouth. So, like,
Mm.
don't make, like, guttural noises. That's not English. Like, I could only give, like, very almost like surface level tips and
Were
stuff.
these in
But yeah,
person or were these over like online? I forget.
yeah, they were in person, but they'd be in the booth,
I
and
see.
I would be with the
I
text.
see. I
Yeah,
see.
yeah, and it wasn't like we were like standing that close to one another. Obviously, everything was through
Sure.
microphones,
Sure.
but it actually matters because it like they care more about what it sounds like through the
Yeah.
microphone.
Yeah.
Like they don't want like lip noises, for example, whereas in English there's a lot of lip noises that happen, whereas in Japanese, because it's spoken a really different area of your mouth, like near the upper palate,
Sure.
like they just don't have that.
Mm.
So that was something that they have to be very conscious and careful about, and then it screws them up. So
Okay. Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah. No.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
fun.
I didn't.
I only did a little
I
bit.
gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, that's so interesting because like in America, a lot of voice actors they're like, oh yeah, I hired a dialect coach. It's just very very
Yes.
matter of fact. Like, yeah, I just want to get better at this dialect. And it was like, oh yeah, cool. That's not, maybe I should do that. But I didn't think about that. It would want to be something you would keep secret or like it would be something to be
Yeah,
embarrassed
or
about.
something
Yeah,
they're working on. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I couldn't think of a better word. Like it's not really embarrassment. It's more
No,
like, oh, I want
I
to.
know what you mean.
Yeah, you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
it's like it's basically
Yeah.
like saying I'm not as good as like you don't want it to be public knowledge. I guess that I'm not good at doing English. So if the role requires English,
they
don't
don't-
hire me. Like
Totally.
yeah.
Totally. Yes, that's exactly what it is. They don't want it to be like an obvious weak point. So they don't want it to be known that they have like a particular coach for it type of thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, actually, you hit the nail on the head. It's that they don't want, like, obviously the other agencies to know so that they can continue getting work no matter what in any sphere.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But see, Japan is also kind of like, a little bit classic and old in that sense too. They don't want their weaknesses out there. Like it's not like a selling point for them.
And there's like a sense of pride, right? Like a sort of you
Yeah,
don't want
yeah.
your pride to feel diminished or hurt in any way.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess you mentioned sort of like you were making strides in the voice acting. Did you aside from that, did you work on any Japanese productions or what?
Unfortunately, no, not since I moved.
I see.
I think it was going in that direction, I think. But no, I definitely did not. It really was like exactly when COVID hit.
Okay.
And then, our like kind of communication like loosened a little bit as, COVID was like ravaging the world. And I think we all just kind of went in like we just wanted to like I think everybody diversified their income, including myself. Like I focused more on my YouTube channel and like obtaining sponsorships because I needed to stay afloat.
Sure.
And also like all of my in-person on-camera hosting gigs were all obviously canceled or postponed, so we all needed to stay afloat in different ways. So yeah, unfortunately it hasn't actually like my contract hasn't been like renegotiated or revisited, but we'll see how that goes. It's like, anime is always going to be there and around.
Yeah.
But actually, the anime that I was not co-producing, but like I was on the American team for helping to like kind of come to life, Mecha Ude. That when you said like animation took a hit, I was gonna say like, oh, I'm very aware that animation took a huge hit because that has been in limbo for like now over a year because of all this. So it's been rough, man. This industry has been rough this year.
I'm sorry to hear that. Damn.
Yeah.
No, just besides all work stuff, like what have you been up to in your free time? Anything fun? Like what do you like to do if you have free time?
Yeah. Let's see. I spend a lot of time with my family, mainly because, again, that's like the whole purpose why I came back here. So I have been delegating a lot of my attention there, which has been great. Let's see, I took up golf, which is like so random. Yeah, but yeah, so Japan is like really, really good with like socially distant driving ranges. Yeah. So yeah, I've been golfing with my dad, which has been awesome because it's really, really, it's such a good stress relief. Let's see, I obviously game all the time with my husband. That's been like our bread and butter for our entertainment forever. Yeah. But yeah, otherwise, it's been pretty, indoorsy, trying to be as safe as possible. I was going out a little bit, let's see, like towards October and November of last year, but now I'm like probably going to stay put. Yeah, just for a little longer.
Man, you playing golf with your dad. That's my dad's dream is if I took up golf. Like, I don't know. Or should I try it?
Honestly, I didn't give a shit about it until this year, just because, anything else is so, I don't know, kind of like dangerous, I guess, right? And my dad is an avid golfer. I'm assuming like your dad as well.
Very avid golfer, yes.
Yeah. Oh my God. And you know what? You're going to like it. You're going to like it a lot. Really? I didn't think I was going to enjoy it this much. Yeah. And I love it. I want to go every week if I can.
Do you have an athletic background?
I am pretty athletic, I would say. I'm not saying like I'm an athlete or anything, but I have done sports like all throughout my life. Not so much my adult life, but I'm like very physical, and when I was like growing up, I did a whole mess load of sports.
Gotcha.
So it definitely is like in my blood. Like I definitely like to do activities like that, like sports. And I did a lot of tennis and softball. So in a way, like hitting a ball with like a stick is definitely something I understand.
Okay. So as somebody who it's not in my blood, you still think I would enjoy golf?
You know what? I think you would, because it's not really, it's not the same type of instincts. I actually had to learn to not put in so much muscle, and it's really more about, it's more of a calming sport than you think. Like you really have to center yourself.
Okay.
And you can't put too much like power into your grip, or else you end up like hitting the ball this in like an awkward manner. And it was hard for me to like understand that, but I'd say this is like, you'd like it, I think. I don't know.
I don't think you're necessarily wrong. But I'm just like,
It would make your dad so happy.
He would, but at the same time, I feel like, I don't know. Is your dad super supportive and very patient?
He's kind of mean.
Oh, then okay. If you have like kind of a mean dad about it, then I mean, my dad's not mean. He's very nice, but he would absolutely be like, no, you need to do this and this and this, blah blah blah. And I don't know. I feel like
oh my God, do we have the same
dad? I feel like it would
dad?
drive me up a wall. I'd be like, you're lucky I'm playing this with you at all. Like that. Okay. I have thought about it because like
it's a bonding experience.
I have cousins who play, and my dad that's like his favorite thing is golf. If he could golf every day, he could. Like, in fact, I'm hoping he'll retire as soon as he can just live out his golf dreams. But like, right. I'll think about it.
I think you should give it a try.
No, I think I should so too, because like as he's getting older, it's like it's a good way to spend time.
It really is. It really, really is. And golf is a sport that you can do like literally forever, because again, it's not like, it's not like insane cardio or anything, and it's a lot of like concentrating. Sure. More so. It's a cerebral game. So I feel like that also adds to the bonding experience almost, but I don't know. I love it. And our dads sound very similar.
Not to sound like a complete moron, but how do you start to practice golf? Do you go to like a is there like a practice range or what?
Yeah. Yeah,
what's the
yeah.
process for that?
I actually haven't been to like a proper course. I've only done like hit practices and driving ranges, and even that's like more than enough fun. But yeah, so my dad will bring me to a driving range, and he has like a full golf set, but it's like, you know, for men, so I have to borrow like a ladies set, and then because my dad knows so much like your dad does, like he'd tell me like, oh, this driver's for this, like you want to use this for this type of hit. If you want to go like long, you want to do this, and like this is for shorter hits. So knowing that, obviously you don't have to know everything from the beginning. It's always just like fun to know like how to hit straight in the first place. So yeah, so you kind of start from there. And my dad like really hardcore coached me. I think he just like really, really wanted a son. And he really wanted a son that was like interested in golf. So it was, the first couple lessons was like a little bit intense. Like he'd make me just like swing without hitting the ball 100 times just so my arms would like learn range of motion. Yeah. But like it really helps. Like I hate to admit it, but his like really scary instructional methods really worked, and it's really satisfying. I think that's what it is. Like if you miss the ball or if it like hits in an awkward direction and vibrates a little bit, like it doesn't feel good. But like when you hit it just right, oh my god, it feels so good.
Okay. You know, Reina, if I end up golfing,
have I convinced you?
If I end up golfing, I think it'll be because of you. It's interesting.
Oh, the honor.
It's interesting. Like maybe I can bully my youngest brother to like also do it or something and make him do it as well. But okay, interesting. It's funny because I've actually been not dragging because I always knew he would kind of enjoy it, but I don't know if you know my sort of passion for board games.
Oh my god, I love yes, I definitely know that because I too love board games.
Let's talk about that in a second. But the last, I think, several visits, I decided, you know what? I'm going to see if I can get my family to play actual board games. And I did. Like, I brought, like, I don't know, like...
Whoa!
He got really into, what's, like... Are you familiar with Quirkle?
Quirkle, no.
Okay, it's just a very simple game where you, like, have these colored shapes, and then if you, like... put all the same shapes in a row or all the same colors in a row, you get a Quirkle and you score points. It's like kind of like a Scrabble-esque sort of blocking tile game or whatever. But
oh, that sounds amazing.
They just got really into that, and like something like Splendor or like the Mind. Just like I would just like go to like the local Target because right now they live in the middle of nowhere ass anywhere in Michigan. So I just drive me like 30 minutes to the nearest Target. I'm going to see what they have here, because Target's selection of board games has actually significantly improved over, like, the past couple of years. And, yeah.
It's phenomenal now.
Yeah.
I used to have to go to Barnes & Noble.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, they don't have, like, a local, friendly board game store, right? So it's like, all right, let's go to Target. I just pick up anything that I think will look promising, and then we just play them. And, he's very tsundere about it. He's like, I don't know about why, in the beginning he's like, why are we playing this for children? Or something like that. And I was like, it's not for children. I know you like, what is the, not Korean name? Paduka. Go. You like Go.
Oh, Go, yeah.
Yeah, you like Go. You like card games. Like, you love trick-taking games. I know, and then, it's funny, like, we'll play, like, a board game, and then he'll be like, let's play again. And then we'll play again, and let's play again. And then, like, we'll play it, like, 5 times or whatever.
He loves it.
But then I'll be like, what'd you think of that game out of 10? He's like, I'll give it a 6. I'm like, okay. Yeah.
Damn.
You give it a 6 out of 10, but you, like, wanted to play it. Like,
even though you wanted to play, like, 7 times.
It was funny during COVID. I think, I'm not exaggerating, maybe, like, 6 months straight, I think they played Quirkle every day.
Wow. Like, without you.
Without me.
They?
Yeah, it was funny. Like, my mom would just be like, playing Quirkle again. Or, I guess they just, I don't know. I don't know why. I guess because it's simple. I don't know. That game in particular, I'm not sure why they latched onto so much. But for me, it's just very gratifying to see him
Mm-hmm.
embrace this hobby that I.
Yeah.
So I should give him I should do the same.
You.
I should.
Yes,
I
feel the
should take it
same.
up. All right. I'll think about it.
He'll be so happy.
Yeah, he would be.
Yeah.
That's true. Unless, unless I was just complete dog shit at it, but which I can see happening. But we'll see. We'll see.
I don't know. I think you'll surprise yourself. Like it's a very cerebral game. It's not like other sports. It is sports, but it's not the same at all.
Yeah, yeah.
I think you might like it. Oh.
That would be funny. That would be funny. Board games. I guess I'm just curious. Like, what do you? What
Oh
are
my
you?
god, I'd love to talk about board games.
Yeah, let's talk about what are your sort of favorites?
Oh, I have so many. Okay, so my husband and I are very competitive. We've, been friends since middle school, and we have been like very deeply competitive with each other on everything
Sure.
ever since. And he, in particular, also loves board games as well. And we always kind of like try to introduce a new one every couple months or so.
Okay.
But I think our favorites are probably Carcassonne because once you get used to it, it is so casual and fun.
Yeah.
I love Dominion. I'm going off of replayability, like the things that we played like the most.
Yeah.
Let's see. We also really we love like bananagrams. Letter-based games are amazing. Obviously, Scrabble is like sitting at the top of the top. And we've also been doing a little bit of chess lately as well. But chess is a little bit of a commitment. We don't play with a clock, and we don't play speed chess. Like we really take our time. So that one, we really have to set aside some time for that. But
Gotcha.
that's been a lot of fun. But yeah, I would probably. Oh yeah, and there's also this I guess. Yeah, it's definitely a board game. It's called Race for the Galaxy.
Oh, it's absolutely a board. That game is great. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. And I love how complicated you can make it. At first it was really daunting and we kind of dumbed it down. We took out a lot of the cards that really expand the game and make it long. And we made it maybe not as simple as possible, but we definitely played a non-advanced version of it.
Sure.
Got really used to it. And now we play with every manipulatable aspect of it as possible. It's so much fun.
That doesn't surprise me that you like that, considering you like Dominion, because there's definitely some crossover there.
Similarities. Yeah, for sure.
It's all about sort of building an engine, right? Of okay, if I play this card, I can play this card and this card and this card. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so different playing between 2 people versus 3 or 4 people. I don't think I've ever played with more than 4 in anything, to be honest, but oh my god, Race for the Galaxy really completely changes the moment you add an extra person.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's an amazing 2-player game, actually.
It is.
I would say that's
totally
actually
is.
the best way to play is 2, but it's nice that it works though with multiple players for sure. I've played multiple. I don't actually own it, but I've played it at board game shops, and there's ways you can play board games online, and that's a very solid.
Yeah,
pick.
I love that one. What are your favorites? I'm so curious. I can kind of know what your favorites are, but I'm curious.
I would love to hear what you think first, I guess.
Yeah.
You got a guess? The type of game you think I would love or be my favorite?
I thought until you reacted the way you did to Race for the Galaxy, I was going to say Race for the Galaxy because it's I don't know, I feel like
No,
you like that level of complication.
Oh, yeah. I definitely... So, actually, my favorite game is... I like deck building games. I don't know if you're familiar with the genre.
Oh, of course.
But not like Magic, which is you make a deck in advance. Dominion. Dominion's a fucking deck building game. Yeah, you're literally building...
Dominion is a deck
you're building
yes.
a deck as you go. That sort of thing. So,
yes.
My favorite is actually a game called Marvel Legendary, which I'm not even... I don't care about Marvel at all. But I just love the game.
Yeah.
It's a cooperative deck building game where you're each scenario is different and you're basically just building decks to win the scenario. And
Interesting.
There's one called Aeon's End where it's imagine a deck building game where you don't shuffle your deck ever. So it's as you put cards in your deck, you can actually kind of almost plan your deck because as soon as you run out of cards, you just take your discard pile, flip it over.
Oh, okay. And the order
and
stays.
the order stays. So that's
Interesting.
also a
Okay.
cooperative one where you're like, like basically working together.
Oh, because you need to know what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah,
Oh, that's so
yes.
good.
It's like, okay, if I stack these cards together in the discard pile, then I know that when I draw them, these cards will be together.
They'll come
so
back.
It's,
Right.
it's that kind. That's a game that is
Oh,
very,
that's
very
so
fun.
good.
Gloomhaven. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one. It's a.
I've heard of Gloomhaven,
Yeah, it's very kind of like campaign-driven, sort of dungeon crawl with very interesting card play. So, I think for me, it's gonna be stuff that I love. I love really good card play. I love engine building where it's like I can sort of like, if I do this, and it lets me do this, and lets me do this, and does this. Like you build a whole sort of engine.
Certainly.
That or really, I don't know, just I like thematic games a lot. And for me, actually, complexity doesn't really matter. Like as long as the game is memorable to me. Like I love super light games. I love super heavy games. Like I don't know if you've ever heard of like Twilight Struggle.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of Twilight Struggle.
Have you played it?
No, I haven't. It was like suggested to me, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go with like Bonanza instead."
Oh, Bonanza's a great. That's a great game.
I love Bonanza. I don't know why they don't call it Beans though. Just call it Beans.
Everybody calls it Beans or Bonanza. Yeah, like
Yeah.
Twilight Struggle is I guess you might already know, but it's a one-on-one Cold War simulation card game with a giant map, and you're playing out the Cold War. I will say. So, I'm just gonna. Do you just want some 2-player recommendations? Like, seems like
I would love that. Yeah.
If you want the experience of Twilight Struggle, but not complicated, Watergate.
Yeah.
I just played this recently. Watergate. Have you heard of it?
Watergate. Ooh, that does sound familiar.
You are playing as either the reporters or you're playing as Nixon, and.
Oh my god!
What it is, it's a card game. I think you would love this. It's a card game where you're basically fighting over evidence. Like you're trying to drag evidence over to your side of the board. And as the reporters, you're trying to get evidence and tie like sort of these webs of information to Nixon. And if you do that, you win. Whereas if you're Nixon, you're trying to ruin their investigation and just play cards to fuck them over. And you're trying to like get points that way. It has a very similar feel to Twilight Struggle, but you can learn it like almost like it's very easy to learn. Like you just sort of won't take less than 5 minutes to read it and set up, and then you can just go. Twilight Struggle is you gotta learn all the mechanics or whatever. Watergate, super accessible, historical too. And it's really fun. It's full of cards. You're like, hey, fuck you. Like, I'm playing this card, which ends your turn immediately, and I get to go again. Or I'm going to play this card, which lets me take this evidence and move it here. Like,
that's awesome. That is so up my alley. Because you know what? It's exactly what you said. Twilight Struggle just felt very, there were too many parts to it. And I was like, oh, I don't want to like learn this right now. Like, it feels like it's going to take commitment. And I think that's why I was like, you know what? I'm going to go with Bonanza. But
which is still a great game.
Watergate, dude. It's still a great game. It's really great. It has really great replay value. You can play it over and over again. Damn, I'm definitely going to get this. It sounds amazing. I'm assuming it's available at Target.
Oh, is it available at Target? I don't know.
Ooh, it does sound like a very specific type of game. I'll look for it online.
Yeah, see if you can. I mean, it's you can get it online for sure. I would highly recommend it. Based off I'm literally going Board Game Geek. I don't know if you're familiar with that site. I'm literally going on there right now. Just to like see if I can get you one more. So you seem to like card games a lot. Is that fair to say?
I do love. Yes, I do. We do love card games. Let's see. I think the most like recent game we purchased is Nine Tiles Panic.
What's that?
Nine Tiles Panic is really cute. It's got a set amount of cards, and there are these tiles that have both sides to them, and there's 9 of them obviously, and it creates like a little bit of a map, and it's either the roads are all connected, or there's like houses in each block, or there's an alien, or there's a dog, or there's a spy.
Okay.
And And depending on how the tiles like randomized and are created, like the map is created, you have objectives that are designated on like separate cards, like a deck of cards. And yeah, and also like the point values are different depending on what your goals are. Like for example, if you have 9 consecutive like roads that one leads out to the west and one leads out to the north, but they all connect together, that's an extra like 10 points. But you have to kind of commit to what type of points you want to go for in the beginning, so you can kind of like mess up by gambling incorrectly.
I do know this. I haven't played. I do know this game. It's Oink Games does this. It's yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. I saw a video where they I don't know if you're familiar with Shut Up and Sit Down. They're a YouTube channel that goes over board games. They were going through all the Oink games, and this was one of them. Yeah, that's right. I love how these games look too.
Yes, that is what attracted me the most. It is very, very cute, and also very easy to just like visually understand. I like that there's like a limited amount of colors, for example. Like I know immediately what this is. So
one of the best. I'll give you one more recommendation. One of the best 2-player games I played last year, in the void year, was there's a game called Targi. Have you heard of this?
Targi, no. How do you spell that?
Targi.
G-I, okay.
Yeah. So in Targi, the theme is they're based on the pronunciation might be wrong, but the Tuareg men. They're a desert nomadic tribe, and basically, it's this sort of grid where you have is it 5x5, 5x4? It's a grid anyway, and or it's like 5x5. And what you do is you take turns putting meeples on the outside edge because each card has an action on it, and wherever you put a meeple, you can do that action, and then wherever your meeples like intersect with their lines, you get to do those actions as well. So like
interesting.
But what the trick is it's a 2-player game, and if I place a meeple at, let's say, the top of a column, you can't place your meeple in that same column. I block that whole column. So it's like you're like I think you're putting down 3 or you're each putting down 3 meeples around this grid, and so it's like I'm gonna put one here. That means you can't put one in that column, and then you're gonna put one on that row, and I can't put one in the other facing it. And wherever your 3 guys are, it's like I get to do those 3 actions, and as you kind of draw invisible lines, across the board, anywhere they intersect, you get to do the actions on those cards as well.
I love it.
It's excellent. So it's like you're getting resources, you're like buying these cards that score different points in your tableau, and you're like, and it is always so hearing that you're really competitive. The whole competition of like, I know you want that action. I'm gonna put my guy here so that I'm gonna take that action instead. I highly recommend it. I think it's just a phenomenal 2-player game. So
that sounds amazing. I mean, I love strategy games as well. So just like hearing about it is so exciting.
I think you will definitely enjoy both of those.
God.
And if you do end up getting them, I would love to hear what your thoughts were on them, because
I'll give you a full review.
Yeah, honestly, please do. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, and I can always recommend. I love recommending things to people, especially stuff that I'm very, sort of knowledgeable about, especially board games or whatever. So I always am happy to hear if people have a good time with stuff. So you should absolutely let me know what you think if you do end up getting them.
I definitely want to give it a try. I'm also really interested in Watergate because I like that type of game as well. Like, I like almost, what is it, like specifically trying to trump the other person. Strategy game. So
Oh yeah, if you like
and it
that.
also works when you're close with the person you're playing with. Like, I'm sure you'll do this next. So
exactly, yeah. And like I said, like I actually think Twilight Struggle, one day you should give it a try. I don't know if you should buy it, but if you ever have the opportunity, you should give it a try, because it's actually not as daunting as people think. It's not just... It
looks daunting though. I remember looking at it and being like, oh.
It does. I ended up buying it. I was like, oh boy, like, because it's so well known, and so I was like, all right, let's give it a try. But I was very surprised. It's actually mainly card based. It's just like,
interesting.
I play this card. You just take turns playing cards. I play this card. all right, that activates this
Yeah.
thing in Africa, and I do this to you. All right, your turn, and it's just back and forth. Just if you're, if you can play Race for the Galaxy or card games like that, where it's just like reaction,
Yeah.
reaction, reaction. That's all it really is, and then you're just kind of manipulating things on the map.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Watergate will give you that feel. It's like Twilight Struggle. I don't want to say light because that implies it's not as good of an experience, but it's like the more condensed, focused version that gives you the same sort of feeling.
It's like a gateway drug.
Yeah, and then
It'll like give me that like entrance feel. Yeah.
and then maybe it's like, oh, you liked Watergate, and you want something a little more complicated. Oh, okay, and then I can give you some more down the line, but
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I like just needed a new board game to kind of like explore.
Yeah, no, I hope you enjoy. We're actually just about done here. I guess is there any last things you wanted to bring up or talk about?
You know what? I don't know. We covered so many fun topics, to be honest. Like, even though, we obviously had to talk about some serious stuff as well. Like, it
Sure.
was really, like, therapeutic. I really miss speaking English. Obviously, I speak English to my husband, but, like, I miss, like, just kind of shooting the shit with my friends. So this was so, so wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, we should also just shoot the shit sometime, even not on a podcast, honestly. Like,
Definitely.
I feel like it's been too long. This has actually, I've said this several times on the podcast, but it's actually been a very good way for me to kind of reconnect and also just talk to people, right? Like, it actually does feel very nice, especially during these times, to talk to people I don't get to talk to that often.
Exactly.
And I don't know when this will be, but whenever you do come visit, I would love to have you or both of you over, if you'd like. We have a disgustingly huge board game collection.
I bet.
So,
I bet it takes up like a whole room.
It is a gigantic 5x5 IKEA shelf, and that's just most of it. It spills out, and it's a problem.
It sounds perfect.
But we should absolutely play some games in person sometime soon.
I
Not
would
soon, but
love
whenever
that.
we can.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And whenever you come to Japan, please let me know. I have a
Ooh,
guest room.
that-
I mean, granted, I live in the middle of nowhere, but we are a bullet train hub, so it's not like impossible.
Okay, that would.
I can drive here.
Honestly, I would love, because I've only really been to Tokyo, and I would love to explore other areas of Japan as well. Like, we definitely want to hit up Osaka, especially with Super Nintendo World is
certainly.
there and coming there.
Oh, I'm so upset that I can't go. I wanted to go so bad. Like, I was so ready to go, and then,
Yeah, I'm so desperate to go. So, yeah, I think Japan is definitely, as soon as we can, we're going to head over there.
Yeah, let me know.
Yeah, for sure. But where can people find you?
Oh, my YouTube channel would be wonderful. YouTube.com/Reina SCULLY. Thank you so much.
And are you I know you are on Twitter, but what's, yeah.
My social would be just @Reina SCULLY across the board on everything. I'm really sorry that like I was having such a hard time answering you on Twitter DMs. I was like trying so hard not to go on Twitter because it always made last year it was making me very depressed.
Yeah.